Pure Financial Advisors, a registered investment advisor. This show does not intend to provide personalized investment advice through this broadcast and does not represent that the securities or services discussed are suitable for any investor. Investors are advised not to rely on any information contained in the broadcast in the process of making a full informed investment decision. This is Your Money, Your Wealth on Talk Radio 760 KFMB. Now, here's Joe Anderson and Big Al Clopine.
Happy holidays, Alan.
Yes, I am really enjoying this holiday season, and
all right,
it's great family time.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Show's called Your Money, Your Wealth. Joe Anderson here, certified financial planner with Alan Clopine. Show's called Your Money, Your Wealth. Go to iTunes. If you're listening to iTunes, thanks a lot. Download the show. Subscribe if you like it.
Yeah,
write a little review if you like it.
We turned this show into a podcast, don't we?
Yes, we do. And it's the weekend once again, so everyone listening via live on the radio, happy holidays. Nice to be with you. You know the holiday season, right? Office. You got office parties, but before that, like all the vendors, they bring gifts.
Yes, and we get lots of cookies
and so you put
popcorn.
them in the break room.
Yes.
Right? I don't know why this is my biggest pet peeve in life. It's not really my biggest, but it's one of them.
Okay, what is it?
Like how fast
it goes.
This crappy food goes. It's like, really? If that was on the shelf in a grocery store, no one would buy it.
Of course not.
And then all of a sudden it's in the break room, and then everyone and their mother is now crowding in the break room eating these weird, right? And no offense to our good friends, but that was the most unique food item.
It was unique. We got some jalapeno jam and some spices, and
and then a roll of mashed potatoes.
It was, I don't know what you call that thing. It was interesting. It was like deep fried, and inside was mashed potato ground beef hash of some sort.
Yeah, 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Maybe you're supposed to put
They brought it from L.A. to San Diego.
Yeah, you're supposed right? It's a little cold. But I guess you're supposed to put the spices on there. I'm not really sure.
put some jalapeno jam on the mashed potatoes?
Even those went just like that.
Oh, my God.
Just
someone
big.
bit into it, thought it was coconut?
Well... Actually, Megan bit into it, and she thought it was going to be chocolate center. She was a little surprised.
Oh, gosh.
Anyway, interesting.
Yeah, and then our office building has, they had this little breakfast. Did you see that? It took me 45 minutes just to get up to our floor because the elevators are jammed.
Yeah, with people
eating this, if it's free, it's for me, I guess.
That's the slogan, right?
Oh, my
I know.
God.
I got a very, very nice gift, giant basket of cookies, individually wrapped, and I put those in
homemade, or were they from?
They're from someplace.
Well, see, if it was homemade, then that would be different.
Yeah, no, it was professionally made, and I actually had one. They were pretty good, but I honestly, I thought, when you saw that stack of cookies, you would think, well, this will take a month to get through it. And I went back, and this was like at about noon or 1 where I put it out. The following morning, it was like there's 4 cookies left wrapped up. I don't know if there's hundreds. There was a lot.
I don't get it. I really don't get it.
Even I won't say names, but one of our office team members, who's very much a health nut, even she said, "Oh, I love this time of year."
Unbelievable. I look at the stuff in that break room and I was like, who bought this? And then there was one person brought something in. It was in like a Ziploc bag.
I didn't see that one.
And it looked like moldy even. And then I was like, what the hell is that?
Now I got it.
And then I swear to you, Al, it had to have been 2 hours later. I went in there, filled up some water, looked, the Ziploc bag is shredded open, and this moldy concoction of bread and something is gone.
It's like rabid dogs got to it.
No.
It's all over the floor.
Like, do we got to give people raises? Here's an extra.
They can't afford food.
They can't afford just
Apparently.
crap cookies and.
So along those lines, one of our CPA contacts got me a bottle of Chardonnay.
Well,
so
there you go.
Good thing I didn't open that up because that would have been gone at 8 in the morning.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. So we have our holiday. Tis a season to go to holiday parties.
Yeah, it is. We got one this weekend for our company.
Yeah. So I got here how to survive your office holiday party, Alan.
Okay, what do you got?
Pull this up for you.
Please, so I can know what to do and what not to do.
Yes. The headline here is "Arrive late, leave early, and do your research beforehand."
Really?
So I'm here to help you. I'm going to do some research for you, so you
Okay, so I
so you don't act out like you did in years past.
I got working working the annual office party. For starters, don't get drunk. So we'll compare notes here.
Okay. So this is for all of you if you're going to go to your holiday Christmas party.
Okay.
Check with HR before you bring a guest.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You got to check with HR. Because the party might be held at, a nice venue or something like
Sure.
that. So,
Yeah.
But usually in the invitation,
It'll say.
it will say, hey, you know what? Bring a spouse or bring a guest.
like our holiday party this year is spouses included or significant others, however you want to say it.
And then we in years past we would always have it at Mike Fenison's house, the CEO.
Yes, yeah.
And then but we would have a smaller kind of like happy hour where we
Right.
would give
And that was just kind of staff only.
yeah. But if a spouse came, it wouldn't be like, hey, look at Clopine. Well, he brought his wife. Can he get away?
She's gonna have a drink.
Jeez.
Wow.
Do some research before the party, they say. If there are senior executives you don't normally interact with,
Right.
all right, so, or employees coming in from out of town for the party, a little poking around on your company website to brush up on names and titles is probably pretty good.
So if our employees don't know us at this point,
Who are you?
there's a problem.
What's your name?
Mine says opportunities to interact with senior executives are generally rare, so don't blow it by slurring your words. Or worse, it's important to leave a best impression possible, not to leave a lasting memory of you stumbling across the dance floor.
I see nothing wrong with that. I see nothing wrong with that at all. If someone wants to come up to me slurring and then starts dancing, I'd be like, all right.
We have low standards.
Shake it. Let's do this. All right. Come prepared with conversation pieces.
Okay.
All right. So get a little note card.
Okay, good. Like, does it give you any ideas? Like, what could I talk to Joe Anderson about?
Well, I don't know. If you're naturally shy,
Yeah.
come to the party armed with a few, conversation pieces.
Yeah,
like asking about someone's role at the company
Okay.
or what their holiday plans are. That sounds like a fun conversation.
Right.
Try to branch out your close office buddies and also chat with people at the company that you don't normally interact with.
Okay.
Well, there's probably a reason people don't interact with them. So let's get drunk and interact with people you don't like.
Yeah.
That makes a party.
It does.
Yeah, let's see.
So
The
my-
party
my-
could also be a great opportunity to network with your boss and other senior members of the company. However, be sure to keep your conversations light.
Light, no politics. Huh?
Yes, it's
Okay.
a great time to tell them about a project you're working on, but it's definitely not the moment to ask for a raise or promotion.
Right. Okay. So mine's pretty similar, Joe. It says, do attend. It's always a good idea to go. And commit to the evening. If it's a 3-hour party, employees should aim to be there for 2 hours or more.
Really?
That's what it says. Managers and supervisors should stay for the allotted time. It doesn't say what that means, but stay for what and of course, don't get drunk. Many company holiday parties serve alcohol, but drinking too much is the biggest mistake that people make.
So I got something similar here. Pay attention to when you arrive and when you leave.
Okay?
So you don't want to be the first person at the holiday party, especially in line at the bar.
Got it.
Try to arrive 20 to 30 minutes after the official start time, when the party is already in full swing. Sprinting out of the office so you can get to the first event might send several negative messages,
Okay.
including that you aren't that busy at work or that you can't wait to get to the booze.
Got it. So that's a no-no.
So let me see here. Make
Mine's-
sure you
mine's-
take
yeah.
your leave at the appropriate hour.
Okay.
Before only stranglers remain.
You don't want to be the last one.
I guess not,
Also
yeah.
drunk. First or last, not good.
Since nearly all holiday party scandals occur at the event in the winding to a close or after hours. So your professional reputation will thank you for taking your leave in a timely manner.
Got it. Now, mine says, just like yours, think of some talking points on what projects you're working on or what you're excited to tackle in the coming year. But keep the conversations light. But don't corner someone with a too well-rehearsed pitch. So I guess, here.
Hello, Mr. Clopine.
Yeah, I've prepared this little booklet.
I would like to tell
see.
you about the projects that I'm working on. And by the way, if you want to, be gracious during the toast. So
gracious, all right.
Yes.
Well, commit yourself to a set period of time to talk to coworkers you don't know as well before hanging out with your crew.
Yeah. See,
network for the first 30 to 45 minutes. So that's what I've got. And Joe, when did Christmas parties and holiday parties become so complicated?
I don't know. There's many articles on it, though. So, last one here. If you're a top performer at your company, you may be honored in a toast at the party. If so, acknowledge the honor. But don't drink to yourself. And be sure to thank the person who recognized you. Hey, I just want to recognize Alan Clopine for his hard effort throughout the years.
And so
hey, all right, here's to me. Woo!
So don't do that.
I'm going to be at the bar.
So wait a minute. Everyone in the company is toasting and drinking, and you're just supposed to sit there and go, oh, isn't that nice?
Yeah, thank you, everyone. All right, we got to take a break. Show's called Your Money or Wealth. We're in the holiday season, full swing. Don't go anywhere. Show's called Your Money or Wealth.
This is Your Money, Your Wealth on Talk Radio 760 KFMB.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the program. Show's called Your Money or Wealth. My name's Joe Anderson, Joseph Anderson. I'm a certified financial planner. I'm with Alan Clopine. He's a CPA. Go to our website if you like.
I was going to ask, are you a certified advisor or a certified financial planner?
I did this video. You know how many times I've said Joe Anderson, certified financial planner?
It's of several million.
Oh, God. Yeah, I did this video and I said, Joe Anderson here, certified financial advisor. Maybe I was a little nervous. Maybe I was the first one at the bar.
It's starting to show. There's cracks in the armor.
Yes. Oh, man. Well, there's a lot of talk about this stock market, Alan. Dow 20,000. Yeah,
I tell you, huh?
So as the Dow Jones Industrial, this is by Investment News. I thought this was somewhat interesting.
Okay.
And as the Dow Jones Industrial Average closes in on 20,000, analysts are talking about, what's going to happen here? They're talking to the bull type, bullish individuals on Wall Street.
Okay.
And they're saying, all right, well, and they're talking to their the advisor community, and they're saying, well, what are you saying to your clients?
Sure.
But we have to put this into perspective, folks, okay? Because it's like all over, any type of financial media. That's all you're seeing, right? Dow 20,000.
Yes.
The Dow has 25 record highs this year. Did you know that, Alan?
No, but I know it's had a lot.
And about 16 since the election.
Really? Most of them after the election.
Yeah, the past 6 days have featured 6 record hies in a row. And
wow.
This was, I think, printed on, maybe Thursday or Wednesday.
Okay.
Well, when did Alan, Janet Yellen spoke on, Wednesday? Well, they met Tuesday, Wednesday. She hiked interest rates on Wednesday.
Yeah,
so
the market came down Wednesday.
Down, 100 points?
Yes.
And then it was up 100 on Thursday, and then
Correct.
Friday was somewhat flat. So, but the past 6 days, so on and so forth. Okay, but here's something that I found very interesting, Alan.
Okay.
The market magnet is what some people are calling it, has even begun to pull the long dormant mutual fund investors. So domestic stock funds have seen an estimate net flows of $35.8 billion in the past 4 weeks.
Really?
$35.8 billion.
Okay.
Right? According to the Investment Company Institute, that's more than any month since the Investment Company Institute started tracking this stuff.
Wow. Okay. So
what does that tell you? 35. So this is the highest month flow. The past 4 weeks, more money has gone into stock funds.
Yes. Well,
at all-time highs. 16 all-time highs.
What you would think, of course, is that this would be a great time to buy. But history tells us money tends to flow near market peaks. Now, I'm not saying we're at a market peak, but it is interesting how that tends to happen.
So when we hit market lows, I'm going to say another statistic.
Yes.
And when markets are low, what should we be doing?
Well, we should be buying, but we do just the opposite.
Right. And we'll have record outflows.
We freak out.
We'll have record outflows
because we start
funds.
reading the paper and listening to the news, and they tell us the Dow is going down to 0 or something. It's going to cut in half.
I think now is a really good time to take a look at your overall portfolio.
Me too.
And look at a rebalance strategy.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of people that set it and forget it. And then the other side of the spectrum is that people just day trade the heck out of their 401k plans.
Right.
There's no happy medium. I want more people for 2017 to get in that happy medium spot. And what that means is just take a look at what your risk profile is. And what that means is really starting out with your goals of what you're trying to accomplish with the money that you have and how much risk should you be taking to get the income or the cash flow that you need from the overall portfolio, right? It's pretty simple, pretty basic. But I think people will just take a look at, all right, what's the market doing? Let's buy or sell.
Right.
And a rebalance strategy works like this, is that, all right, well, how much money do you want in stocks versus bonds? Real simple. If you want 60% of your money in stocks, 40% in bonds, let's say. Well, right now, the stock market is up, so you might have more than 60% in stocks in your overall portfolio and probably less than 40% in bonds because interest rates have hiked up, right? Bond prices have gotten crushed over the last couple of months. So now might be a good time to take a look and say, all right, well, I'm going to sell a little bit of my stocks and buy a little bit more bonds. You want to look at this to make sure that your risk parameter of the portfolio is set to what you're trying to accomplish. I like set it and forget it more than day trading, but you still, where people fell into problems back in 2000, right, with the tech bubble, everyone was like, well, why would I want to buy this mutual fund when this one's up 40%? And then they were heavily weighted in some asset class. And then when the market turned, they got, hammered. So protect yourself. Now's a good time, right? End of year, right? Things are slowing down a little bit. And then you get yourself set up for 2017 and you have a little bit more confidence in what the portfolio is going to do because the markets are going to correct. We just don't know when, right?
And interestingly enough, Joe, I just saw a stat. I think it was last week I read this. And don't quote me, this isn't quite, I don't have it in front of me, but it was something like that when Ronald Reagan was elected president, there was such a level of excitement. The stock market went up 8.5%, 9% before he actually got into office. And that first year after he got into office, the market went down about 20%.
Sure.
Because there was so much excitement and hype about what's going to happen. And and of course, everyone knows this. It's like it takes longer to change things than it doesn't happen on a dime.
100 days.
Typically.
Everything's changed.
Now, maybe this time will be different. I don't know. But at any rate, there's a bit of hype in the market, which means it could be, it could keep going. And that's the weird thing about the stock market. It could keep going. But the prudent thing is to take some of those gains off the table by rebalancing, just like you're talking about. But, Joe, that feels like the wrong thing to do right now because why would you sell your stocks, which are doing really well, and buy more bonds that are actually have been hurt a little bit lately?
But here's all the hype, too, when you look at all-time highs, all-time highs, all-time highs. What do people think? It's like, okay, well, this is the all-time high.
Right.
Well, then it might be time for me to get out. Well, the markets are always going to hit all-time highs. That's the purpose of it.
Yeah,
right?
They do go up over time.
They do go up over time. They're supposed to hit all-time highs.
Yep.
Right? And then if you think about it, all right, well, so after Yellen spoke this week, this is the financial media for you, right? The market drops 100 points. Oh, the market gets hammered. It's 100 points on 20,000.
Yeah, and plus it probably gone up 100 points the day before.
God, so it's like, come on.
We're back to Monday's price.
Let's say if the market drops 1,000 points.
Right.
What is that? 5%?
That's about 5%. Yeah.
1,000-point drop. Oh my God, it's got a 5%. That's a 20% drop. That's when the market gets hammered. Right?
Yes.
But still, that is still normal.
Right.
Right? That is still normal.
It typically happens every few years.
So you're looking at, all right, well, that would be, a 5,000-point drop.
Right.
That's 20%. People will be freaking out. They'll be like, oh, my gosh, what's going to happen? The doom and gloom and everything. No, that's just a normal cycle in the overall markets. And if you have that perspective, in the Dow Jones, too, the Dow 30, it's not a very good representation of the entire market when there's probably
You're right about
thousands of
Sure.
company names in the overall markets
Sure.
versus 30. Right?
Agreed.
I mean, it's a good generalization of the overall movement of the market, but you can't, live and die by your overall investment strategy by listening, to the pundits of saying, all-time highs, market at 20,000.
Right.
People just put things in perspective and then learn a little bit more, and then you'll have that confidence, and confidence goes such a long way. We got to take another break. Show's called Your Money, Your Wealth.
Now back to Your Money, Your Wealth on Talk Radio 760 KFMB.
Hey, welcome back to the program. Show's called Your Money, Your Wealth. My name's Joey Anderson. I'm a certified financial planner with Alan Clopine. He's a CPA. Thanks for tuning in today. Happy holidays.
Joe, besides holiday season, it's the final chance to lower your tax bill for 2016.
Is it the final chance?
Mm-hmm.
Right now.
Right now.
Okay.
In the next, depending upon when you're listening to this show, okay, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a week. If you're listening to a podcast, maybe it's too late.
What do you got for me? How can I lower my tax bill?
I got 5 ways.
5 ways.
To lower your tax bill now. This is from NerdWallet. This came out on December 14th. And
this is going to be earth-shattering, I bet.
It's stuff you've never heard
Probably
of.
never heard of.
Right? But it is true, Joseph Anderson, that when it comes to tax planning, about 98% of all strategies need to be accomplished by December 31st for that tax year.
What's your source on that 98%?
That's per Alan Clopine, CPA. I should have said somewhere's about 98% for compliance.
A lot.
services.
A lot of.
It's a lot. It's
a high number.
It's
a very high percentage.
It's way over majority.
Got it.
Anyway, so here's some things.
All right.
Because, in other words, we got to be acting now if we want to lower our tax bill in April. Because as a CPA, nothing is more discouraging than a client comes to see you on April 1st, and they made all this money, and they say, "What can I do?" And the answer is, well, we could have met several months earlier. There was all kinds of stuff you could do. So here's the first one: earth-shattering.
Saving your 401k.
That's going to be one of them.
Next.
Make a donation.
There you go.
Make a donation, right?
Well, I think that's more important this year than other years
I do
if
too.
there's tax reform coming down.
Right, because this year our highest tax bracket's 39.6, and next year, in all likelihood, the highest rate will be lower, maybe 33%, because that's what the Trump plan is, and that's what the GOP plan is, and there's majorities in the House and Senate. So I would say, Joe, there's a pretty good likelihood that we may have a much lower, higher bracket, which means...
Well, at least maybe by 2018.
At least by 2018, sure, but it's going to count. Let's say, for example, we get new tax law next year, and they change the rate for 2018, then that means we have 2 years of higher tax rates to where our charitable donations will get us more tax dollars in our pocket, right? Because of the higher, in other words, the higher the tax rate, the more benefit of a tax deduction.
And this is only, I guess, people, too, that's probably higher than the 25% tax bracket to kind of take a look at this.
Yeah, that's true. I think if you're in the 15%, 10 or 15% bracket, which is planning the proposal is to become 12%, so there's not too much difference there.
And I guess what my point was is, like, if you give, yes, of course, please still give, but it's not maybe bunching up. And I think you're probably headed with this because we have higher tax rates. Maybe you want to give a little bit more this year.
Yeah, that's the idea. And here's the way. I mean, you can certainly give more to your favorite charity. That's no problem. But in many cases, people want to just kind of have a lump sum that they'll give to charity that they can dole out in the future, and that's actually available. There's a special account called a donor advised fund. You can set up this account, you can put your own money into it, and that money will ultimately go to charity. Not necessarily this year, but here's the key: the year that you put the money into the account is the year you get a tax deduction. So let's just say the tax rates are higher this year, and perhaps next year. These would be 2 really good years to get some charitable deductions that then in this donor advised fund, you can decide what charities get what amounts as you see fit. And Joe, I get the question all the time, which is, well, how much do I have to distribute out of this fund each year? And the answer is nothing. In other words, if you want to let this season for 10 years, you can do it. Or if you want to start doling out funds to charities right away, you can do that. So anyway, it's a great way to take a deduction when your tax bill is higher. And that's not just because tax rates are going down. Maybe you've got bonuses this year. Maybe you've got stock options, right? Or maybe you got restricted stock that became unrestricted, and you got all this extra income. Now, of course, this presumes you're charitable. If you're not charitable, then we'll go on to the next one here in a second. But if you're charitable, wouldn't you rather get that tax deduction when you're going to save more towards that tax deduction against taxes? And I will say one more quick thing, Joe, and that is you're also allowed to give appreciated stock to these donor advised funds, which is actually the best way to go. For example, you have a stock worth $1,000 that you paid $100 for. Mm-hmm. You give that to this donor advised fund, you get a $1,000 deduction, and that $900 gain, you never pay tax on that capital gain. So
right,
it's a double benefit.
Right, that's missed all the time where someone will just give cash. Right?
Double benefit. In fact, even if you give directly to your church or charity, they will take appreciated stock as well, because when they get the stock, they can sell it, and since they're nonprofit, they don't pay any taxes. So
yeah, if you're usually giving cash, and if you do have stock outside of your portfolio, or outside of any type of retirement account, in a brokerage account, and if you do have gains, that's where you want to look at. But then people, well, I want the stock. Well, then buy the stock back with the cash that you were going to give to the charity.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so you bought it for $1 a share. It's worth $9 a share. So you give that stock to the charity. They sell it. They don't pay any tax. Then you buy that stock back at $9 a share. Right, your portfolio still looks the same.
Right.
You just kind of redistribute your wealth in a more tax-efficient manner.
And now later, when you sell that stock, there's not near as much gain.
Exactly.
Right? That's the idea. And Joe, this one may seem kind of obvious, but it does get missed, and I'm going to bring it up, which is if you bought a stock for $1,000 and it's worth $100, well, don't give that stock, because if you sold that one, that would be a loss. It would be a $900 loss that you can use on your tax return against other capital gains. So, in other words, appreciated stock, yes, put that into a donor advised fund or give that directly to your charity. If it's a loss position and you want to sell it, well, go ahead and sell it and show that loss on your tax return and then donate the proceeds.
And then you can also take a look at, this is getting a little bit in the weeds, but, lots. Like what lot of stock that because most people dollar cost average in.
You're right about that.
And so it's not like, all right, well, some of you do. Let's say you get an inheritance of $100,000 and then you buy a stock with that $100,000 or a mutual fund or whatever. But then there's some of you that, let's say, save $1,000 a month into that brokerage account.
Yeah.
Well, each time you purchase that stock or stock mutual fund or whatever investment, it has different cost bases because the market's not stagnant, right? So it moves. So then when you look at, all right, well, I want to give the one with the lowest cost basis to the charity,
right?
Because then that's going to give you the biggest bang.
Boy, that's a great point, Joe. And
hey,
a lot
thank
of
you.
Yeah, you're really thinking about this.
This is the holiday season.
You're just giving and giving and giving. So yes, I agreed. So here's the next one, also earth-shattering, not earth-shattering, I should say, but very important. Offset your capital gains with losses. And I think a lot of our listeners know this, Joe. In December, they look at their brokerage statement and they got $20,000 of capital gains. And then they look at their statement and go, okay, I've got some other positions that are in a loss position. Let me see what I need to sell. I can create $20,000 of losses, and those two net together, and I pay no taxes on those prior gains. And that does work, and people should be looking at that. But here's what's the strategy that's missed is you ought to be looking at this year-round.
Right.
Because the stock market is not always low in December. In fact, right now, it's pretty high.
Right. Do you remember the first week of this year?
Right.
It was the worst January in the history of the stock market.
Right.
Or it wasn't the worst January, it was the first week or couple of weeks.
It was the worst first week in the history of the market, is right.
And so, yeah, there was probably some losses.
That would have been a good time to tax last harvest. Exactly. And when you tax last harvest, here's how you do it properly, is you sell the position that's down to create that loss, and then you buy something that's very similar so you're still in the market, because the market may come zooming right back as it did in January. And by February, a lot of those losses were gone. So you don't just want to sell and then kind of go into cash. You want to buy something similar so you still have the integrity of your portfolio.
Right.
This is Your Money, Your Wealth on Talk Radio 760 KFMB.
Hey, welcome back to the program. Show's called Your Money, Your Wealth. Joe Anderson here, certified financial planner with Big Al Clopine. He's a CPA. Thanks for tuning in. Happy holidays, everyone. It's that time of year again. It just seems like yesterday that it was January.
Right. And it seems like yesterday that we were doing a holiday show, and it does. It seems like yesterday that we were doing this 2 years ago. So time flies, and it seems to go faster, Joseph Anderson, as you get older.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yes.
The memories are kind of shot. Hey, a few things. A couple of different mistakes happened this week that we've talked about on this show in the past, and I want to bring it up again because it's important to realize how things are titled when it comes to your assets, and especially your retirement assets, right? And so let's say you have a retirement account, 401k plan, IRA, 403b, a defined contribution plan that you've been contributing to. A lot of you have named your living trust as the beneficiary of that retirement account. So let's say you're married, you got a couple of kids, and you're like, hey, you know what? We got a couple of kids, I'm married, I got a house, I got some assets. Maybe it's time for me to do some estate planning. Right. So you go talk to your friendly attorney. The attorney drafts a nice living trust for you, and you title everything into the name of the trust. You follow the directions to a T. And then you're like, hey, we have these retirement accounts. Well, the attorney said we need to title everything in the name of the trust. So you titled the beneficiary of the asset to the name of the trust.
Got it.
So there's pros and cons to this, and still there's so much misinformation on what people should do. All right. And I would say about the majority of you that are listening that are married should not name your trust the beneficiary of your retirement account unless it's a second marriage and you want to preserve that assets if you had kids from a previous marriage.
Right. That does make sense.
Okay.
Yes.
Second of all, if you are not married and you have children and those children might not be able to handle the type of wealth that is inside your retirement account, a trust as the beneficiary might be a good idea.
Sure.
But in all other, there's probably a lot of other cases, but, in generalities, I think in most cases, if you trust your spouse, right, and if you've had one spouse, then don't name the trust the beneficiary. Name your spouse the beneficiary, then name your children the contingent beneficiaries, and then after all of that, then you can name your living trust. Here's what happens. So let's say I'm married and I have my nice retirement account and I name the trust the beneficiary of my retirement account.
Okay. Primary beneficiary.
Primary beneficiary.
Okay.
Now, the problem here is there's many. For the trust to actually perform how you want it to perform, there's 4 or 5 things that actually have to happen. All right. And for the trust to be, quote unquote, called a designated beneficiary.
Okay.
All right. And so if all of these things work out and then it does everything you want it to do, where the trust now is your designated beneficiary, there's still problems. So let me explain. So I'm married. I'm not married, but let's say I was married.
Yes.
Right. And then so I name my beautiful bride.
I'm just trying to imagine this now.
Yeah, please do. I do every night. It's nice. So, anyway, I digress.
Yes.
So I name the trust the beneficiary.
Okay.
All right.
Instead of your beautiful wife.
Instead of my beautiful bride. And so I die, right?
Okay.
Then the trust needs to have 4 things to happen for this to perform. Is that it needs to be a look-through, see-through trust, okay? So what that means is this, is that the trust will look through, right? Because a trust is an entity. It's not a human being. A trust doesn't have life expectancy.
Okay.
So it'll look through, see through, and it will see, oh, all right, well, there's a human being in that trust as a beneficiary. So then that would allow the tax to stretch over that beneficiary's life expectancy.
Okay.
Also, the trust needs to become irrevocable at the date of my death. All
Okay.
right? It has to be a legal, document the date that I issued it.
Sure.
All beneficiaries have to be identifiable. What that means, all beneficiaries of my trust have to be human. So I can't have any
give it to
part
my
of that as a charity.
Or a dog or cat.
Right, yes. Yeah, your
My
dog.
pet mouse.
Yeah, exactly. Pet mouse.
My pet goldfish.
Sure. It can't be the church or University of Florida or the United Way or Wounded Warriors. It has to be an individual.
Okay.
All right? So, and then here's the last one, is that the trust document needs to be delivered to the custodian. So let's say my assets are at Fidelity. So the trust document, there's a delivery requirement of the trust. So the custodian needs to have a copy of the trust. So let me repeat, it has to be a look-through, see-through trust. all the beneficiaries have to be human, identifiable, right, with life expectancy.
Okay.
The trust needs to become irrevocable at the date of my death. Right?
Yes.
And then there's this delivery requirement. And
Okay.
of course, it has to be a legal document in the state that it was issued. If all of those things happen, which rarely do, then the trust is now what is called a designated beneficiary. Here's the problem with that, is that now the spouse, let's say I'm 40 years old, my wife's 20. Okay?
Right.
And so now she would have to take a required distribution from that account. If she was just named, and maybe she doesn't need the money. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So now she's draining money out of that retirement account unnecessarily.
Yeah, taxed at ordinary income
Taxed
rates.
at ordinary income.
Yes, right.
Right? So if I just named my spouse as the beneficiary, right, she could keep it in my name and take a required distribution if she wanted to.
So she has more options.
She could roll it into her own,
Right.
and avoid any type of income coming out of it and being taxed on it, and let it grow tax deferred until her retirement date.
So that's if she's younger. So you're gonna marry a young gal.
Maybe.
We're talking about you now.
Oh, yes, sure, okay, whatever. So, right? Does that make sense? So
It does.
what happened is that, all right, well, the individual hypothetically, right, comes into the office, and we've seen this many, many times, is that, all right, well, the husband named the trust the beneficiary, or the trust the beneficiary of the retirement account.
Right.
She's 60 years old. It was a fairly large IRA. She has good income. And then so she's like, yeah, I have to take this required distribution. Well, I don't need the money.
Right.
So there is a way basically to do a spousal rollover, and that's taking it from the overall trust and then moving it into her own account.
Right.
Versus the trust, right?
Yes. Right.
But then it's a private letter ruling, which
Well-
would cost her about $25,000 to do it.
because it's not a slam dunk. So
Exactly.
you need to have IRS approval on that.
So please name your spouse the beneficiary of the retirement account, and then name the children. Usually, all right, well, now if one spouse already passes, or if it's going to the kids or the grandkids, then we can talk about, all right, well, now it might make sense to set up the trust. And then you have to get into a little bit more legalese. Is it like a conduit trust, an accumulation trust, and what's
Right.
the pros and cons of that?
Sure.
So it gets fairly complicated. I wish it was simpler, but it's
Yeah,
not.
me
And
too.
people just kind of think, all right, well, here, I do have a living trust. They should name it as the beneficiary of my retirement account. But in most cases, what we see, what's going to happen is the exact opposite of what they intended to do, because they don't understand the tax law when it comes to retirement accounts.
Yes.
A retirement account is completely different than, let's say, your brokerage account, right? Or your checking or savings account, or your home or apartment buildings, or whatever that you own, or any other asset. A retirement account has to have a required distribution from it. So just be careful of how you're naming your beneficiaries, right? So now the death of the stretch IRA could happen as early as next year.
It could.
So what that means is that now the non-spouse beneficiaries might not be able to stretch it out over their lifetime. So to do the appropriate planning is even more key, because it could happen in the matter of months, right? So if you do have an IRA that you maybe don't necessarily need, that you want to pass it off to the next generation, I highly encourage you to have someone take a look at this to figure out exactly what the implications are going to be if that non-spouse beneficiary can't stretch it out. If you want to name the trust as the beneficiary of your retirement account, please talk to a qualified professional so you truly understand, hey, am I passing all these tests here for that individual retirement account to go through it? Because attorneys, they might not even think to ask, well, here, don't name because in most cases, good attorneys will draft maybe a separate trust.
Correct.
Or they'll have different language in that trust, knowing that, hey, you have a large IRA.